They stabbed him 23 times. The most powerful man Rome had ever seen collapsed at the base of a statue, drenched in blood. But here's the part your school books don't tell you. Out of all those wounds, only one killed him. To understand why Julius Caesar's death shook the world, you need to know who he was and why the very people he trusted most turned their knives on him. Before we get into the story, if you enjoy my videos, please consider subscribing to my channel. It's always very much appreciated, and drop a comment on what story you'd like me to cover next. Now, let's get into it. Julius Caesar wasn't born a king. Rome didn't even allow kings. They were proud to be a republic ruled by the Senate, not monarchs. Caesar came from an old, noble family, but not a rich one. He was ambitious, brilliant, and ruthless, the kind of man who inspired loyalty and fear in equal measure. Caesar's career truly exploded during the conquest of Gaul, modern-day France and Belgium. For nearly 10 years, he led Roman legions through brutal campaigns, defeating entire tribes, enslaving millions, and even crossing the Channel into Britain. These victories made him immensely wealthy and wildly popular with his soldiers, but dangerously powerful in the eyes of the Senate. And no one feared him more than Pompey the Great. Pompey wasn't just another politician. He was Rome's other superstar general. He had cleared the Mediterranean of pirates, won wars across the East, and been celebrated as Magnus, meaning the Great. For years, Pompey and Caesar were allies, even family. Caesar's beloved only daughter, Julia, was married to Pompey, tying them together politically and personally. But when Julia died unexpectedly during childbirth, the alliance shattered. With no family bond, Pompey turned against Caesar and sided with the Senate. In 49 BCE, Caesar made a choice that changed history. He crossed the Rubicon River with his army, an act of treason that meant civil war. He famously declared, "Alia iacta est," the die is cast. After years of fighting, Caesar defeated Pompey at the Battle of Pharsalus. Pompey fled to Egypt, hoping to gather reinforcements. But in Egypt, tragedy struck. The young pharaoh, eager to impress Caesar, betrayed Pompey. As Pompey stepped off his boat, assassins murdered him on the shore and severed his head. When Caesar arrived days later and saw his rival's head, he reportedly wept, not out of mercy, but because Pompey had been a great man, and this was no fitting end for him. Ironically, years later, Caesar himself would die in a hall built by Pompey, beneath Pompey's own statue. With Pompey gone, Caesar returned to Rome victorious. He declared himself dictator for life, reshaping laws, calendars, and power itself. To some Romans, he was a savior, bringing order after years of chaos. To others, he was a tyrant in all but name, threatening the very republic that defined Rome. Two men emerged as leaders of the conspiracy against him. First, Marcus Junius Brutus, an idealistic senator and Caesar's protege, almost like a son. His mother, Servilia, had been Caesar's lover, sparking rumors Brutus might even be Caesar's illegitimate child. Brutus loved Caesar, but loved the republic more. With Brutus, there was also Gaius Cassius Longinus, a hardened general and staunch opponent of Caesar's ambition. Where Brutus agonized, Cassius acted. He saw Caesar's death as the only way to save Rome. Together, they recruited more than 60 senators. Their oath was to kill Caesar to save the republic. March 15th, 44 BC, a date the Romans simply called the Ides of March. For them, it was just the middle of the month. Caesar's rise to dictator for life had terrified Rome's elite. Whispers of conspiracy floated everywhere. Even soothsayers, Roman fortune-tellers, warned him to beware this day. The morning of the Senate meeting, Caesar's wife Calpurnia begged him not to go. She'd had nightmares of his body lying in her arms, drenched in blood. But Caesar, confident and dismissive, refused to cancel the session. "Cowards die many times before their deaths," he famously said. The Senate was meeting in the theater of Pompey, not the usual Senate house. It was being renovated. This theater was a vast marble complex built by Pompey the Great, Caesar's former ally and greatest rival. a bitter irony not lost on anyone. Inside stood a statue of Pompey towering above the chamber. That statue would witness what happened next. Over 60 senators packed the room. Hidden under their togas were daggers, small, easily concealed, perfect for striking in close quarters. The plotters included Caesar's closest allies, men he had promoted, trusted, even loved. Among them, Brutus, his protege, rumored by some to be his illegitimate son. Cassius, the cold mastermind behind the plot. Decimus Brutus, another close confidant, who had personally persuaded Caesar to attend the meeting that day. As Caesar entered, the senators rose. A man approached with a petition, a pretext to gather close around him. Suddenly, Julius Caesar grabbed Caesar's shoulders, pulling his toga down and pinning his arms. Caesar shouted, "Why, this is violence!" Then the first knife plunged into his neck, another into his shoulder, his back. Chaos erupted, senators slashing, stabbing, shouting. Caesar struggled to escape, blinded by blood, surrounded on all sides. In the confusion, some wounds struck each other, conspirators accidentally stabbing fellow plotters in the frenzy. When Caesar saw Brutus among the attackers, the man he loved like a son, he stopped fighting. "You too, Brutus?" Whether he spoke the words or not, Roman historians recorded them, and they became legend. Caesar pulled his toga over his head, covering his face, and collapsed at the base of Pompey's statue. 23 stabs in total. 23 blades raining down on Rome's dictator. But forensic studies reveal something shocking. Only one stab was fatal. A single thrust to the chest, piercing deep into Caesar's heart or lungs. Without that wound, he might have survived. When Caesar's body hit the floor of Pompey's theater, Rome froze. The conspirators, more than 60 senators, stood panting, blades dripping, their togas spattered in blood. They expected cheers, gratitude, freedom, but silence filled the chamber. Outside, news of Caesar's assassination spread like wildfire. The people didn't rejoice, they panicked. Many saw Caesar not as a tyrant, but as their protector. He had given them land, grain, and games. To them, the senators weren't heroes, they were murderers. The conspirators marched through the streets, swords raised, shouting, "Liberty! Liberty for Rome!" Caesar's body was brought back to his house and laid out for public mourning. But no one followed. The city was gripped with fear and confusion. Caesar's body was brought back to his house and laid out for public mourning. Days later, it was carried to the Roman Forum for the funeral. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general and friend, delivered one of history's most famous speeches with the famous line, "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears," after Caesar's assassination. He held up Caesar's bloody toga, pierced with 23 holes, and read Caesar's will aloud. Caesar had left money for every citizen of Rome. He had willed his gardens to the public. Even in death, he gave to the people. The crowd erupted. Grief turned to rage. In a frenzy, the mob seized Caesar's body. They built a funeral pyre in the Forum, not in the cremation site the Senate had planned, and burned him there in the heart of Rome. As the flames rose, chaos consumed the city. Homes of the conspirators were stormed. Senators fled for their lives. Mobs tore through the streets, forcing the conspirators to flee Rome entirely. Brutus and Cassius, the leaders of the plot, fled east to raise armies. Brutus and Cassius raised armies in the east, but 2 years later, they were defeated by Caesar's heirs, Antony and Octavian, Caesar's adopted son. Both Brutus and Cassius committed suicide after the Battle of Philippi. Rome plunged into more civil wars. When the dust finally settled, Octavian emerged as sole ruler. He took a new name, Augustus, becoming Rome's first emperor. The Roman Republic was dead. The Roman Empire was born. 23 stabs, one fatal blow, and a betrayal that transformed the ancient world forever. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to check many more on my channel, comment what you'd like to learn about next, and subscribe. I post real stories every single day.